Memento Mori, embracing one's death that one may live a thriving life. Today's Spiritualism 101 lesson is inspired by my first authentic ghost story. And at the crossroads of spiritualism and Stoicism, you can find two philosophies that, once mastered, will indeed help you find happiness, contentment, and live life fully. It was late summertime, and I was laying on the couch. Across the room from me was a rocking chair, and from time to time I would see my friend Bruce in the rocking chair. You see, an hour earlier, John called and told me that Bruce had killed himself and was giving me the details to the funeral. I wasn't able to make it because I was in a brand new job. But also, I was a brand new psychic and healing arts student, learning to develop my psychic abilities and my mediumship abilities. So I laid down on the couch and quieted my mind and thought about Bruce. And from time to time, he would show up in that rocking chair and sit in his particular slouch with his legs crossed, holding a lit, cool cigarette, and I could smell the fragrance of the menthol from the smoke. He would stay there for maybe 10, 15, maybe 20 seconds and leave. And this went on and on until my wife came home, and I had to get about the rest of my evening. What happened is Bruce was checking in with all the people who knew him as they learned about his crossing, to see what they were seeing and what they were feeling and what they were experiencing upon the news of his crossing over. This is my first authentic ghost story, and one that allowed me to start to realize that life after death is real. While Stoicism focuses on our physical being, our mortality, in this lifetime here and now, spiritualism is more of a spiritual context. This lifetime in the context of all of our lifetimes, as we evolve spiritually from simple to complex. Today we're going to look at how accepting the fact that we are mortal, that this physical body is not going to live forever, frees you up to allow you to bring about the life you've always wanted. Hi, I'm T.S. Hall, the Stoic Medium, and I help spiritual seekers find the answers they're looking for. I do this at Spirit360 Fellowship, an online spiritualist church, where we help you see if spiritualism, the philosophy, not the religion, is the right path for your spiritual growth and development this lifetime. If it turns out that spiritualism is your right path, then we teach you the psychic and healing arts, the language of spirit, at the Old Soul Academy. The Old Soul Academy is an online psychic school where we help spiritual seekers find those answers by reconnecting with their own spirit, their spirit guides, and by so doing, start to live life abundantly, or, said differently, find their spirit for living. If this feels right, if it rings true, get your invitation to join us for one of our online Spiritualist Church Services conducted on Zoom. You can get your invite at spirit360.org. But how does death help us embrace life? You know, we've all had many lifetimes. In fact, we've had so many lifetimes, they outnumber the breaths we've taken this go around. And every time we're born, we live, and we die. We do different things, we have different concerns, we learn different things. But we're always born, and we always die. That is, except for our spirit self. And I love the Stoic philosophy about embracing your death. Carpe diem, seize the day. Because it allows us to accept this physical body and its impermanence. But also, spiritualism allows us to understand that this body is kind of like the shell for a hermit crab, just a temporary residence. A rental unit, if you will, that we signed a lease for, so we could come here on this side, on the physical three-dimensional realm, to learn and experience certain things. At some point, either by our own choice or natural causes or accident, we leave this physical body and we find ourselves on the spirit side. During my 30 years of study and practice in spiritual development, I've lost any fear or concern about death. I know, and I know that I know from personal experience, that life after death is real. I've had experiences I can't explain any other way. And trust me, Lord knows I've tried. I was educated and trained as an engineer, rational thinker. Logic was my main way to solve problems. But certain information was not explainable any other way. So I embraced spiritualism, life after death, to help you understand what I've experienced from my spiritual growth and development practices. I'm going to share with you three stories, three quick ghost stories, if you will. The first two are about ghosts. The third is about a dear friend of mine, an earth angel who crossed over recently. All three of them hold a special place in my heart because I learned some specific lessons, a deeper understanding of my awareness about life and death and life after death. The first story I want to share with you, let me set the scene. I was on top of an Aztec pyramid. There was a corpse on the altar right next to me. And I'm holding in my hand a still beating heart, looking up at the moon, giving praise and celebrating this sacrifice, this life, this transference of power. I was there. It was three-dimensional, clairvoyant reality. I was hovering between asleep and awake, that naturally perceptive open time we all go through twice a day. And it was real. The smells were real. It seemed like it had just rained, so I kind of had that wet, rainy sense to it. You could smell the metallic smell of blood. I had a little taste of blood in my mouth. I definitely had a little bit of bloodlust in my heart. I wasn't maniacal or out of control, but I definitely was in the heat of the moment. I dutifully woke up and grabbed my journal and started to record this scene. The scene probably lasted 10 or 15 seconds. It took me 5 or 6 pages in my journal to describe all the details, the smells, the experiences, the feeling. And the one thing I remember most about this experience, this dip into the Akashic record that one of my spirit teachers shared with me, were the people in the wings waiting for their turn to be sacrificed. They were joyful. They were not resisting. I paid careful attention because I thought, were they drugged? But no, they were not drugged. Their belief system had them willing to sacrifice their life for the greater good of the whole community. That's ghost story number one. I can close my eyes and revisit that experience anytime I want. The lesson I learned is that our beliefs define our experiences. Our beliefs define our experiences. So here I was, a holy man, sacrificing people who were willing to be sacrificed based on the tribal truths of the Aztec people. What there is to do in this story is look at your beliefs. What beliefs do you have in your life that may not be the most appropriate beliefs to help you live the life you want to? Because eventually, we're all going to be on that altar, stepping to the other side. And when we get to the other side, we're going to review what it is we experienced this lifetime to see if what we experienced helped us evolve towards individual, personal, spiritual perfection or nirvana. The second ghost story was closer to the time I met Bruce after he crossed over. And I was driving from my home in Orange County down to northern San Diego County for class. And as I was driving in the car, it was probably fall or winter because it was dark pretty early. It was dark when I was driving down to class. And I had this feeling of warmth of comfort, of acceptance. And I glanced in the rearview mirror, and superimposed over my physical sight was the image of my grandmother, Grace, my dad's mother. And she was wearing the shirt she was wearing, and she had on a string of pearls. And she was dressed exactly like the picture I had of her. Now, I was pretty new in my psychic and spiritual development, and my mediumship was just starting to take off. And up until this point, I had mainly been clairaudient, hearing words, not seeing images. But this image was very profound, very clear, and as though she was sitting in the back seat. I got to class and took my seat. We did our meditation, and part of the class structure I was involved with had those people working towards their ministry papers start to share messages with the students. This was their practice time, if you will. So they would share the message and get feedback. So the reader, his name was Jim, came to me and asked me if I wanted a message. And I said, yeah, give me a message. I need a message. Baby bird me. That's how it feels sometimes. And he said, I'm not getting a message for you, but I'm seeing a woman. She's about 5'5", a little bit overweight, wearing a black shirt, black blouse, white string of pearls. She has blue-gray hair, and she's got these kind of cat glasses on. Stepping right close to me, very near into my vibration, was Grace, Mama. And I started to cry. What I had seen was real. My grandmother, who had crossed over about 10 years earlier, was still with us, still in our hearts and minds, and not just as a memory, but as a vibration, a spirit entity. So that was the second ghost story. The lesson I learned from this second ghost story is trust but verify. I absolutely knew that Grace, my mama, was in the car with me. But was it a memory? Or was it her projecting herself? I didn't know. The verification came shortly after, when Jim offered me a message and described exactly what I had seen in the car and write down. Death became merely a transition to the other side. My grandmother, who I knew mainly dealing with a lot of physical health issues, having a very strong Christian value system, I saw her beauty and her warmth and her loving kindness that day. What there is for you to do with this information, this second story, this spiritual lesson, is to remember to keep a journal, to log any and every psychic experience that you have, and then later follow up and validate it either with a teacher who is teaching you how to be psychic, or with your own personal experience by finding out information that's easily verifiable. Trust what you get, but then verify that trust, that experience was indeed accurate. So those are my two real ghost stories. Actually, third if you count the one with Bruce. The last story I want to share with you is about a friend of mine who crossed over recently. This person was a huge advocate for my ministry, and her contributions to my wife and myself have been, I can't even share the difference she made. She was like a mother to me and to my wife. We both lost our mothers, and she stepped right into that role, giving us counsel and love and acceptance. Earlier this year, before the pandemic started, she decided it was time to cross over. Her physical body was letting her down. Her brain was no longer as sharp as it used to be. Her mind, very sharp. But remember, mind is part of spirit, not a part of the physical body. It just takes on the characteristics of the brain when it's incarnate. So as I watched her slowly cross over, her body withering, her brain continuing to not function the way she wanted it to, I was impressed that she exited life the same way she lived life, holding on for everything she had, fighting, being able to allow herself to do things her own way. She crossed over, I got the message, and later that night, I touched into her vibrations. She said hi, that she was okay. She projected about 40 years younger than she crossed over. She crossed over about 93, and she projected somewhere around 60. I see her quite often now in my dreams, and in the work she's helping me get out of my own way to bring about some of the goals she was very passionate to help me create. This video is one of the things that's happening because of her support. Creating an online spiritualist church where people who can't connect with a spiritualist church in person can find answers that make sense to them in the safety of their own home. The spiritual lesson I want to share with you from my friend's crossing is the lesson of non-interference and acceptance. You see, everybody around her wanted her to go. She wanted to go. But she had to do things on her own terms. And the more people resisted her doing things on her own terms, the more she dug in, the more she had to do things her way. But that's how she lived her entire life. Allowing people to do what they do, the way they're going to do it, is the grace, is unconditional love and acceptance that most of us are here to learn. So the spiritual lesson is love each person, just as they are and just as they are not, especially yourself. What is there to do with this information, this lesson? Simply this: how you go is how you're going to go. But until that time, you have a complete and total choice about how you live the life you're living, your perceptions, your realities, your experiences. Embrace those. Know you're going to go, because there's no way you can avoid it. No one has in the history of time. Eventually, you will end up on the other side, looking back on this lifetime in this body, trying to see what there was to learn, seeing things as they really were, rather than how you perceive them to be. Embrace now. Create those memories, those experiences, that once you get on the other side, will help you become one step closer to nirvana, individual, personal, spiritual perfection. Those are my ghost stories. I hope you found them helpful. Especially, I hope you noticed that they are not remarkable. They were rather ordinary. And that's what most of life is: ordinariness. Memento Mori. Embrace your death so that you may live, is a way to allow yourself to be here now, present in this moment, accepting everything that is and everything that is not, picking and choosing your thoughts, your emotions, your level of control you're going to walk through life with, accepting what's here, realizing that the obstacle is the obstacle, but the obstacle is the way, allowing yourself to get more and more familiar, aware with, and connected with your spirit self, that source of intuition, that source of knowing, that source of awareness. And with proper training, allow you to become a miracle worker, mastering the psychic and healing arts, so that you can bring about displayable abilities on command and when you need them most. If this rings true, if it feels right, get your invite and join us at Spirit360.org. If not, I bless you and leave you with your journey. Because eventually, this time or the next, or maybe the one after that, you too will understand what I'm talking about. But for those of you seeking answers, I can show you where to find them. I will never presume to give you the answers, because the answers are yours alone to discover and to comprehend and to experience. Once you experience them, we can have some interesting conversations over some tasty adult beverages. If you have an interesting ghost story, share it down in the comments. I'm happy to hear it and listen to it. And if you want me to verify it, I'm happy to do that as well. If you found this video useful, give us a thumbs up. Share it with someone you know and like. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel so you get our weekly spiritual lessons to help you on your path this lifetime, to accomplish what you incarnated to bring about. With that, I bless you and leave you with whatever you're taking away from this short spiritual lesson, knowing that whatever you're taking away is right for you and will be used for your highest and best good to bring about what you incarnated to bring about this lifetime. And I remind you that until we meet again, spiritual is as spiritual does.